Hey everyone, welcome to our boss fight reveal of the day. So I'm Meredith with Boss Fight. I have Eric, one of our partners and brand directors, and then we have our very special guest joining us, Edgardo Miranda Rodriguez. He
Hi.
is the creator of La Borinqueña. And if you saw our press release a few minutes ago, we are announcing that we are making toys today for La Borinqueña. And this is a really exciting thing for us. We cannot wait to get all of this out there and share it all. But I thought it would be fun to have Edgardo kind of step in and give a little bit of backstory about the comic and the characters, and just kind of if you could explain about how you created this wonderful world that we're really excited to be a part of now.
Thank you so much, Meredith. And what's up, Eric? Señora Araña. I'm so happy to be a part of this conversation. Really excited about collaborating with Boss Fight Studio ever since I got my Zorro Hacks action figure. You know what I mean? It's been incredibly exciting. I think I just want to start by the attention to production that you guys give. I mean, the production value that goes into all of this, all of these properties, whether they're licensed properties or the ones that you're developing yourselves, like the Vitruvian hacks, it's just comparable to everything that we're used to, and it's just beautiful to see that's coming from an independent group of artists and creatives that are really invested in this genre and really invested in this industry. And you guys truly are. I mean, like, you guys are fans. And to see fans in the space with the resources to create properties, there's so much love that goes into everything, into every articulation, into every Pantone color, into every whatchamacallit process in terms of the 3D renderings. There's so much attention to detail and commitment and passion. And I want to just thank you guys for collaborating with us with this new brand. We're relatively new property. We're only 6 years old. We're entering our 6th year now. But in the grand scheme of things, I think the oldest property that you guys are representing is Zorro, which is about what, 100, 200, 3 years old right now. I mean, like, that sounds mind-boggling to even say that out loud. So you go from like the first superhero of of this whole kind of like genre. I mean, although it started in Pulp Fiction, he's literally the first character to wear a mask and have a secret identity,
Yeah.
right? And it's important to point out that was a Hispanic. You know what I'm saying? He's of Spanish heritage, so he's a Hispanic. So the fact that that character exists, and then fast forward now into 2022, and we have one of the most, what I personally feel, talked about, socially relevant characters to enter into the scene of storytelling in the comic book genre, and that's my very own La Borinqueña. So to kind of have to see that bookend, to go from Zorro to go to La Borinqueña and kind of like into the future, it's really incredibly like inspiring to kind of like see this unfurl. And I'm excited, just like everyone else was logged on to see the toy reveals. But La Borinqueña is something that's personal to me. I have a background as an educator and an activist for many years, and I was incredibly moved by the economic crisis that was hitting Puerto Rico back in 2015, that was endemic to the island's colonial status with the US. And it continues to be the oldest colony on the planet right now at 123 years. And there was a debt that Puerto Rico had amassed, unfortunately, after one corrupt administration after another, that came close to $80 billion. And this debt was crippling the economy. So for the first time in the history of Puerto Rico, an incredible migration and brain drain where professionals were leaving the island because industries were crippled and were falling apart, particularly the pharmaceutical industry. But the real world effects of this was what drew me in. The fact that hundreds of public schools were closing in Puerto Rico, medical centers were closing. The fact that scientists were predicting both in Germany and Puerto Rico that there was going to be natural disasters that were going to inevitably affect Puerto Rico because of the reality of climate change. I wrote the first book, the first issue of La Borinqueña, that was published in 2016, with the idea that this is going to be a character that's going to challenge traditional comic book storytelling and not even introduce a supervillain. let's keep this focus on this character. Let's keep this focus on her powers, on on her background, on her story. And in kind of like inspired by the real world, inspired by science, I kind of wove that in, made a promise to myself that this was not going to be a character that would be monologuing, but that the world around her would dictate to the reader the reality of living in Puerto Rico. Now, we know we've grown up with stories that are steeped in mythologies inspired by the Greek, Roman, or even like inspired by the Bible itself. So I took it upon myself to research Puerto Rico's origin, Puerto Rico's mysticism, its Taino mysticism rooted in its indigenous people, the fact that the supreme being is a Semi Barene Vatabe. That allowed me to see this trajectory of the feminist divine energy that's always been a part of Puerto Rico, from its deity that created the universe to the women that created the flags and the women that continue to be a part of this history. So I saw La Borinqueña as part of that. It's kind of like in that history. It's like this is the next level. And in terms of storytelling as an activist, I thought, well, this is where we are right now. The world is excited about comic books because they're being translated into film and into TV shows and into so many other properties. But this is where it all starts. This is the source material. This is what created waves of toys that I grew up with the Mego action figures. This is what grew into the wave of action figures that would eventually shape an industry that exists and thrives to this day. And I saw the power that storytelling had, and that's why I created La Borinqueña, a character that was a new look at storytelling, a new look at the superhero genre, and a fresh new way to embrace social justice and philanthropy. Comic books are driven by this narrative of social justice. Characters are always moved and motivated by the injustices and trying to figure out ways to overcome these challenges and conflicts. But I also wanted to create a formula that allowed me to be to develop a philanthropic vehicle that could give back to Puerto Rico. I mean, I literally named the character La Borinqueña, which is the national anthem of Puerto Rico. The original name of the island is Borinquen, which is a Taino word from the indigenous language and indigenous people. So the national anthem literally would translate to La Borinqueña, the Puerto Rican woman. So that's what inspired me to create this character, to be unapologetically connected to her heritage, to her identity, but globally be a figure to stand up for environmental justice. And it allowed us to kind of like grow to where we are now. We've published three editions of La Borinqueña, which are these graphic novels. We just published our third book this last year. Our second issue that we published back in 2018 is one of the books I'm the most excited about because of the cover artwork. For those that love comics, this is George Perez. George Perez is a Puerto Rican from the South Bronx, quite easily one of the most prolific illustrators and storytellers in comic books, having developed close to 70 characters between Marvel and DC. And if you have been following his career recently, he announced that he has been diagnosed with cancer. So he's literally living out his last days because he decided not to take chemotherapy online and kind of like sharing everything, his engagement with fans, his engagement with his life and his career. And the fact that I had an opportunity to collaborate and that he provided me this gift because I brought him to Puerto Rico for the first time in his career. For his first time in his 50-plus career in comic books, he had never been received as a professional comic artist in Puerto Rico. And he came, he enjoyed engaging with the fans. The fandom in Puerto Rico is legendary. From their big event, tentpole events like the Puerto Rico Comic Con to the smaller events that they do throughout the year. Having the opportunity to bring George Perez to Puerto Rico so that he could engage with fans in this event called the Aguada Comic Fest was amazing. So there's so many stories in the pages of La Borinqueña and outside of the pages of La Borinqueña that kind of like bring us to where we are and where we continue to be 6 years into this property's growth.
Yeah, it's really exciting. And for those who don't know the property, I did just put the website up so you can go visit, check out the comics, check out the stories, learn a little bit more. But Eric, I want to kick this over to you because I think it was maybe about a year ago that you came in and you were like, oh my God, I just read these comics. I'm so excited. And I'd love to kind of get your take on what drew you to these comics and what gets you so excited to work on these toys that we're going to reveal very, very soon.
Yeah, well, I mean, just so everybody knows, I know a lot of our older boss fight fans know this, but I actually have a degree in sequential art, comic book storytelling. That's what my college degree is in. I tried for years to break into the comic industry and then kind of ended up in the toy industry, which is very adjacent to it. And I love it here. I would never leave. But so yeah, I'm a comic book guy. Like I grew up reading Marvel and DC and Dark Horse and like all of it. I just consumed comics like crazy. And on top of that, I kind of am a comic book snob about about what is and what makes a good comic. I'm very picky about it. I'm very difficult to impress, and I found La Borinqueña and got very excited about it because it's just so good. It's got gorgeous art. It's got great character development. It's not your typical story. At the same time, it has those classic storytelling elements that brought me into comics to begin with. So I get very excited about it, and I love the costume and all the costume designs and stuff. They're very classic looking. They're very just what you kind of creates the whole like zeitgeist of the comic industry in your head when you see it. Like it's just so gorgeous and so exciting. And being Latino myself, I'm always excited to see some more representation in the world, especially in the comic world.
Oh my goodness. I mean, Eric's excitement just infiltrated the office, just so everybody knows. He came in and he was literally like, everybody has to read this. Like, you got to stop right now. So he's definitely turned us all into converts here. Do you want to show the toys now, Eric, and kind of talk them through? Oh, Edgardo wants to add something. Oh, Edgardo, I think you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Yeah.
we can.
Okay, let me plug this in so we don't lose it again. I actually wanted to go back very quickly to George Perez, who's obviously one of my personal heroes in comics, and talking about comic snobbery. I'm very old school. I grew up reading comic books through the 70s into the 80s, into the early 90s. I want my superheroes to look like superheroes, and that's just me. I grew up in an era where there was a distinction between what a superhero looked like and what
We lost you again.
Oh.
Plug the mics and just kind of use the laptop mic. Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, cool. I didn't get to charge these mics. So one of the things I wanted to say quickly is when I had a conversation with George Perez, one of the things that really stood out to him, and in classic comic book creator mode, right? I'm talking to him. I'm like, blah, 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 about the work that we're doing. And he's transfixed by the book and he's just staring at it and he's staring at it. And then he interrupts me and he starts talking about her costume. He starts talking about the lines. He starts talking about how I created an asymmetrical costume. And he was like, it looks classic, but it still also is very new and fresh. And I'm going to draw you a cover. And I'm like, well, this is happening. This is really happening. I'm going to draw you a cover and I'm not going to accept any money from you on this because I'm good right now in my career. And that's how this cover came into reality. That's how it is. From someone like how Eric was articulating himself, who really just fell in love with the character's design. And it just came from a very pure place of someone who sees it for what it is. It's a superhero. I'm a fan of the superhero genre. I've always been a fan of it. And although my work is inspired by my activism, it's also very much inspired by my love of comics and my love of this sequential art storytelling form. And I'm very fortunate that many of the artists that work for us are all professional comic book artists. Will Rosado, Emilio Lopez, Chris Sotomayor, Rags Morales, Gustavo Vasquez. My goodness, even young artists that we've been mentoring like Sabrina Cintron. So many artists have had an opportunity to work with us, both Puerto Rican and across the United States, on the island, and even international artists like Manuel Preitano from Italy. And all of these artists concurrently work on major books with Marvel and DC while they also work on La Borinqueña. So that lends itself to a production value that's comparable to major publishers, which is why I guess someone as a snob as Eric is, when he saw it, like, yo, this is like legit comic book stuff. And even the other day, he was like, yeah, man, Will Rosado is dope. I remember when he was doing Green Arrow. You know what I mean? So I'm like, oh, yeah, this guy.
That was like 30 years ago.
You know your stuff. You know your stuff. That was definitely it. So back to you guys.
Yeah, you know, just to tag on and pile on the George Perez thing here. He's probably the most influential artist to me as an artist. He was what inspired me from way back on Teen Titans.
Oh, yeah.
And stuff like that. That's where I discovered him, and I fell in love with his artwork and stuff. And actually knew him way back in Florida because we had some of the same oncology doctors at the time. So we would actually like bump into each other in the waiting rooms and stuff. And yeah, so much love to George Perez.
Yeah, and you know, the comments are flooding in. You clearly have a bunch of fans that are already loving your comics and work, Edgardo, because I'm seeing tons of them like, oh my God, we're so excited. Like, this art is amazing. This art is amazing. We can't wait for these figures. Oh, cool. So let's do it.
Hold on. Gotta roll in the conga.
I love it.
There we go.
Right. There we go. The first look at the first La Borinqueña action figures, correct, Eric?
Yeah, so we're putting out a wave. It won't just be her. But yeah, the first La Borinqueña comes. You can see it's 1/12 scale, which is 6 inch. She comes with an additional head with the flower. She comes with additional hands. She will be including a flight stand, so you can pose her flying, much like the George Perez cover or whatever. And she comes with the stone with the carving in it. What's the god's name again?
Atabe, the mother supreme goddess of the Taínos. And
yes.
This is actually a beautifully reproduced recreation of a petroglyph stone that's over half a century, no, actually half a millennium old. That's actually in the ceremonial parks of Utuado in Puerto Rico. I had the opportunity with my family to visit this park, and I really felt like I had a spiritual connection when I was right in front of this actual stone. So to see it kind of connect, I mean, it's her origin that I wrote is connected to this deity, to this to Atabe. So I think it's the perfect companion piece to have with the action figure, and it's looking so amazing.
Yeah, and how close Edgardo and I do work together. He sent me photographs of this stone, this and this carving, and it was immediate that had to be her accessory. Like as soon as I saw it. But yeah, we're really excited about her, and she's super articulated. For anybody that has any of our Legends of Lucha Libre figures, the articulation is very similar to that, but I want to say that Fred and I engineered some additions even above what we've done on Legends of Lucha Libre. So because we're gluttons for punishment when it comes to these things.
Yeah, and I'm seeing a lot of people who are just getting introduced to this character saying that outfit is amazing. Absolutely. One of my favorites. I see a lot of people getting excited. And Eric, I do have kind of the other characters. Do you want to show who else is coming?
Yeah, let's show the other 3 figures in the wave, in the first wave. Of course, we have La Gorgola, who's very, very bat. He's like part bat and very cool. I love his color scheme with the teals and the purples, and it's just so nice and vibrant. You could have gone all black with him.
But it's also the classic like supervillain palette.
Yes, greens and purples.
You know, it's like the whole DC pantheon is purple and green. You know,
yep.
in the Legion of Doom. You know, and one thing I want to say about La Gálgola is that what inspired me
to create La Gálgola as a character in the graphic novel series are these urban legends that circulate across Puerto Rico. Many of us may have may remember La Chupacabra, right? That was something that exploded in the 1990s, but many people might not know off the island of Puerto Rico the more contemporary urban legend, which was La Gálgola. And people swore that there was this like 7, 8, 10-foot tall gargoyle that was terrorizing people. And one person was like, you know, like either a security guard or a police officer. They was like, yeah, I was attacked. His eyes were glowing and he had these big giant wings. And, you know, I don't want to give too much away, but when you read the book, you'll see how this character and why this character exists. But it's truly outside of the books, really inspired by these urban legends that literally lend themselves to allow me as a storyteller to create characters that are incredibly like fresh and original, but yet familiar. And yo, Eric, man, you had too much fun on this.
I really had a lot of fun with these. And you know the you know Fred and Tony, who are our sculptors / engineers, they you know they had a lot of fun with them too, and just working out some of the, you know, working out how the wings are going to like kind of fold in on each other a little bit so you can move them around, and the all of that stuff we take that on as fun.
You put veins in the wings.
Yes. Well, we wanted them to look real, like actual bat wings. And then of course Oro el Coque Dorado. Did I say that well?
Oro el Coque Dorado. Yep.
Yeah. He might be one of my favorites of your group, because I love characters that shrink, and he shrinks, and much like the Coqui Frog, he's a hopper, and I love it. And I love his costume, the like carnival like type of design.
So I'll jump into this now. So the Coqui character, Oro, was actually inspired by my youngest son. My 6-year-old son, Enyo. During the pandemic, we would draw all the time, and I was actually working on the third book of Borinqueña. It originally had a very dark ending, and I thought, you know, we're living through so much darkness in life right now. The last thing I want to do as a storyteller is like introduce a story that's going to end so negatively and almost like hopeless. So I flipped it completely around, and I decided, you know what, I'm going to introduce a whole new team of superheroes that La Borinqueña is going to lead. And my two sons were like, oh my God, yeah, let's do this. And immediately Enyo grabbed his pencils and his crayons. He looked around the room, and we had this mask, right? This is actually a Vejigante mask. In the town of Loíza, in the northeast section of the island of Puerto Rico, Loíza is actually a town, a municipality in Puerto Rico that was actually founded by Africans that were freed from slavery. So it's right now one of the most predominantly Afro-Puerto Rican municipalities on the island of Puerto Rico. This mask is actually from a coconut shell. So it's actually like hollowed out, sculpted, and painted, adding these sticks. And it's a part of a celebration. There's actually currently right now in Loíza, Puerto Rico, a celebration of the 50th anniversary of many of these festivals that have been part of a contemporary celebration in Loíza. So this is something that is definitely connected to our Afro Puerto Rican heritage. Our Puerto Rican heritage is a folkloric festive mask, like you pointed out. So this mask was actually the origin that inspired the creation of Oro. And I took that idea that Enyo had and literally ran with it. And I was like, wait, I want to create a character that can shrink down to the size of a golden, because that's literally what the name translates into. Gold, Oro is gold, and Dorado is another way of saying golden. So it's literally saying the golden tree frog, which coquis are native to Puerto Rico. And so his costume is kind of like also an homage to the flag of Loíza. Loíza's flag is red, yellow, and green. And on his chest is the Taino image of a coqui, of the tree frog. So these are actually like stone carvings that are found in Puerto Rico that were originally created like over a millennium ago. And it's just kind of like, is it millennium, a century? Coño, I'm like confused. Thousands of years. you know. So this character is one that my youngest son Ennio is incredibly excited about. So we've been showing him all of the behind the scenes, and he just can't wait to hold this action figure and show it off to his friends. I made this, you know. So it's something that we're super excited about. And also with the alternate head, Eric, you didn't even talk about that.
Yeah. And I had your son's drawings. You sent them to me. Oh, like all these different drawings and stuff to work on the figure. And yeah, he comes with the alternate head of him without the helmet on. And he's the posts on the helmet actually come out and can like lock together like either a staff or be used separately, like a kind of like fighting sticks, of which I'm forgetting the name of.
So in Puerto Rico, there's actually a stick fighting martial arts that's connected to bomba, that's connected to our African heritage. It's actually called Coco Ballet, and Coco Ballet is the art of stick fighting. And I actually learned that from a friend of mine, Milteri Tucker, who's a celebrated choreographer and dancer and fashion designer. She created a whole line of beautifully elaborate and colorful bomba dresses, which are a reflection of the folkloric dance of Puerto Rico. She's actually in Puerto Rico doing a massive exhibition of her collection in Ponce. But after a conversation with her, she introduced me to this whole concept of Coco Ballet. She was like, "Oh, I recently discovered Coco Ballet, so I'm learning it, and I'm going to incorporate it into the choreography." And I was like, "Well, I'm going to incorporate this into our character."
That's amazing.
Fighting style. The fact that he could take, the sticks off of his mask and make it into a staff and use it to actually engage in a fight. It's just, I don't know, it's exciting. And it's a cool action figure.
And then the fourth figure is Luz, who's Filipino?
No, she's Chinese Dominican.
Chinese Dominican. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yes, she's an Asian Latinx character. So one of the things I wanted to do with these characters is I literally wanted to push the envelope in terms of like representation. Quite often, people don't recognize outside of the Latin community how diverse we really are. We are literally all races. We are African, European, Indigenous, and Asian. And there are large pockets of Asians throughout Latin America, especially in the Dominican Republic. There's actually a town called Barrio Chino, Chinatown. And what a lot of people aren't aware of is that during the Chinese Exclusion Act here in the United States, migration of Asians continued into the Americas. So they migrated into Mexico, into Colombia, into Peru, into the Caribbean islands of Cuba, Puerto Rico, and Dominican Republic. So this part of our heritage oftentimes is overlooked, ignored, or not even many people aware of. But there is a significant part of our heritage. So in kind of like celebrating that, and personally, I will share, I have an Asian Latinx family. My wife and partner is Korean American. Our son is Boricua. He has a Korean Puerto Rican heritage. And I think creating this character, Luz, is a celebration of that. And I also was inspired during the pandemic to develop this character because she already existed in the comics. She was Marisol, which is the alter ego of La Borinqueña, her best friend. And I really felt that at some point I knew that she was going to evolve into a superhero, but I just didn't know what that hero would be and what she could be. And it was during the pandemic that I felt that there was such a need for light. There was such a need to kind of like shine a beacon for hope and inspiration. And that's really where the idea of Luz came in, to really kind of like develop her into this powerful character that can use light, create force fields, shoot energy beams, and also have her be part of the superhero team. And the superhero team is called the Ni Taínos. And the Ni Taínos, for those that don't know, that's part of also the indigenous heritage of Puerto Rico. The Ni Taínos were actually the nobles that protected the chiefs, the caciques or the cacicas. These were the actual nobles that were there, the front line. And I thought to myself, my gosh, that would be such a cool name for the heroes, to literally be the front line of Puerto Rico, the warriors, the guardians that would protect and also like hopefully inspire others to celebrate them. This is so fun.
Yeah, one of the things that drew me to Edgardo's and La Borinqueña was representation, because that's something that's very important to boss fight as well. So And you know, Luz is very cool. She'll have the two heads. She'll have interchangeable hands that are transparent blue,
Oh my God,
and
that's so cool.
her second head will be transparent blue as well, and her
I didn't know
eyes
that.
will light pipe.
I didn't wait. What?
Yeah, her eyes will be transparent blue, and then we'll paint the flesh on, so the light will come through the fire, like the hair,
Oh
and
my
light up her eyes.
Yo, that is lit. That's lit. Yo, that's amazing. Oh my gosh, this is so dope. So when am I getting them?
I mean, they are kicking off very, very shortly with the factory.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, this is so exciting. It's just I mean, what's really amazing with everyone who's tuning in, what's really amazing about this is that our conversations with Boss Fight Studios started around La Borinqueña. And what was amazing about Eric was that he did a deep dive into the universe, into the stories. And he was like, you guys have so many of the characters. Are you sure you don't want to do more characters? And I was like, well, what are you talking about? I was like, this is Algola characters. Like, and it was just and the whole book, through full transparency, the third book was in production, literally at the same time that these action figures were being developed, right? So when Eric is saying, yeah, I saw Ennio's sketches, he's not playing. He literally did see Ennio's sketches because the book wasn't even done yet. By the time we finished the book, Boss Fight Studio was already in full production, pre-production of these action figures with the 3D renderings and everything. So it was literally going from like computer screen to computer screen before the books even went to press. So they knew about the Ni Taínos. They knew that Lala Liu was going to evolve into Luz. They knew that we were going to introduce Oro. And Eric immediately saw the potential for these characters. He was like, oh, no. We got to do these characters in waves because this is something that's never been done before. And it is. It's like the first like superhero team of just all original characters of color of Latin heritage. And even within the characters, you see this beautiful, like, diverse representation of Asian, of African, of indigenous. It's like a beautiful kind of like mix of diverse characters that are organically diverse. There's no tokenism here. This is the way they are, you know?
And, you know, it was one of those things. The more I saw about it, the more I got excited, the more I wanted to do. And the you know, it's just, I'm such a comic book fan. I'm such a superhero fan. I collect Marvel Legends. You know, it's not a surprise that I would get this excited about this. But especially the more I saw the costumes and the designs and everything, that just, they're so toyetic, and they're gonna make such great toys. And I think people are gonna be really into them.
I love that, toyetic. We need to put that on a t-shirt. And also like some transparency, because I did a deep dive on some of the artists that do the sculpting. For those who are like Marvel Legends fans, like I got excited because the one of the artists that worked on like Algola worked on the Marvel Legends group, which I have. Yeah. And I was like, yo, that's amazing. I have this action figure that they worked on. This is so amazing, you know? So it's kind of like reminds me of the production that goes into our graphic novels. You know, we have artists that work on major properties with Marvel and DC. And for those that don't know, you know, the creative industries of comic book and toy design is really fueled by freelancers. You know, there are a lot of artists out there who are literally looking for gigs, and they're not. There's an incredibly tiny group that are exclusive to these studios, but for the most part, they're out there. So in their portfolio, they can have La Borinqueña, Marvel, and DC concurrently as because that's just the level of work. But they bring that professionalism to everything. And what I loved about your team, Eric, is that they treated our properties like they were part of a multi-billion-dollar franchise. I mean, like the way they're rendered, it's just amazing. And I'm super excited because I've seen what your action figures look like, your lucha figures, your Sam and Dave, your hacks. It's so exciting to see. I mean, my next thing as a geek, because I'm also, for those who don't know, I'm a graphic designer. So I'm excited to see the next thing is going to be the packaging. And just for y'all to know, we haven't had the packaging done yet. So that's my next.
We have not.
What's it going to look like? What's the box going to look like? I remember I told Kyung, my wife and partner, Eric, and I was telling him, it's like, wait, we're gonna have boxes too. They're gonna be out. She was like, we're gonna need 2 of every one because we're gonna have to put one in the box. Hey, no joke. She knows her fandom. Kyung knows her fandom. She knows.
And I see so many people getting so excited about these. So Eric, why don't you talk a little bit? We're getting a ton of questions about, what else is coming already. We're just announcing this, and everybody's like, what else is coming?
Yeah, we do have long-term plans for this brand. We are already kind of working out what a wave 2 might look like, and we are also working on an upcoming action doll iteration for her, because she just fits so perfectly into that sort of inspirational for little girls character.
That's something exciting because we actually we talked with Boss Fight Studios, and we actually have a children's book that we never published. So for those out there that have been reading on Borinqueña, this is probably the first time you hear about this, but there's actually a children's book story version of La Borinqueña, and that children's book is going to be also packaged with this doll, and this doll is going to have actual hair, a fabric costume. She'll be able to change into Marisol, so we have a change of outfit. So the children, a new generation, will be able to be introduced to this character. And I have to share that because this character now is 6 years old. My son is 6, so he's growing up always knowing this character. So now there'll be a new generation that'll now grow into learning about La Borinqueña with stories that are going to be very focused to their audience and to their and for their appreciation. So yeah, the I Am Brilliance, I'm excited about that too. It's just a good time to be a nerd. It's like my fellow Boricuas say in Puerto Rico, it's a good time to be a Geekarican. So that's definitely a good thing.
One of the things I love about La Borinqueña is Marisol, the character, is very inspirational and aspirational. Like, she's somebody who you kind of just want to be. She's very cool. She's very smart. She's very she's just awesome. Like,
I was just having a conversation with somebody earlier today because I've written Marisol to be kind of like a variant of me in an alternate reality. Incredibly nerdy. She's very much into her studies. She's so connected to her family. Like, one of the main reasons why this character, whose story starts in Brooklyn, and I don't want to give too much away for people who haven't read the books, but eventually she moves to Puerto Rico, is to help her grandparents who are retired and now trying to, like typical family members, they're like, well, I may be retired, but now it's time to start my second career. You know what I mean? So they start a restaurant. So she moves to Puerto Rico to help them with their cafe. And it's to me, that was just as important as her superpowers. And also the fact that the character herself has asthma is a reality that many young people of color across the United States, especially in Puerto Rico, deal with. Unfortunately, most of the marginalized communities are the most affected by environmental racism, and the highest rates of asthma, unfortunately, are found in our communities. So I wanted that to be an attribute of hers, but it's also something that doesn't just kind of heal itself once she gets her powers. It's still there. It's something that she still has to deal with, but it also empowers people. I can tell you, so many people who at conventions who come to me or at my stops at universities when I give talks and say, I have asthma. I felt so inspired to finally see a character. Right. And Eric, I'm like, whoa, an inhaler as an accessory. You know what I mean? Oh no, maybe we should add an inhaler as an accessory for the I Am Brilliance doll. You know what I mean? But it was a reality, and it was just like, wow, it's like, and it's not something that made her weaker. It actually is something that gave her strength, because one of the things I wrote in her story is that for those who are familiar with the topography of New York City, she lives in Brooklyn, but she rides her bicycle to Upper Manhattan to Columbia University. That's not an easy feat for anyone who's normal without any ailments. And she has her asthma, and she still struggles with that. And I actually now my older son, who's 18, he rides his bike to school, from Brooklyn to Manhattan. So it's just like this weird kind of like life reflecting art and art reflecting life. But that's the story of Marisol. I wanted her, before she even has her powers, to be a character that is incredibly grounded in reality and for the most part relatable, and also giving her attributes and giving her characteristics that don't reflect her weakness, but actually reflect her inner strength, an inner strength that all of us naturally have.
It's such an inspiration. And, Edgardo, you've recently announced another book is coming that's on pre-order, right? You want to talk about the future of La Borinqueña?
So the future of La Borinqueña is right here. This book right here is Rosario Dawson's appearance in our comic book universe. So the next book is called La Borinqueña, guest starring Rosario Dawson. That's actually a project that's being produced by the Natural Resources Defense Council, NRDC. And for those who are familiar with Rosario Dawson, she's quite easily like the queen of geekdom right now. Like one of the very few actors who has been able to. She's like the Watcher. She goes from one dimension to another. She's been in the DC animated universe. She's been in the Marvel universe. She's now in the Star Wars universe. And like, I mean, like me myself, I mean, like anxiously excited about her in Ahsoka. So yeah. But she's also an activist. She's also an incredibly vocal voice for social justice, for voting rights, for environmental justice, and it's a reflection of her life. This is not someone who kind of had her woke moment. Since she was a child at the age of, like, as young as 10 years old, she was drawing posters because she wanted to bring trees to her community in the Lower East Side. Her mother, Isabel, is actually an activist. So this is what she's grown up with. And bringing her into our comic book was an excellent opportunity to further the activism that we're invested in and the philanthropy that we're invested in. The book is an opportunity to raise awareness to the real world effects of climate change in a kind of like a classical superhero story. So Rosario comes in as herself. So she's the voice of social justice and environmental justice. So she talks about climate change. She talks about how this is really affecting us. And in La Borinqueña and the Nitainos get to be superheroes. They get to beat up on bad guys. And it was a great opportunity as a book to not only raise money for a cause, because our hope is that this book will continue to support our philanthropic efforts in Puerto Rico. We created our La Borinqueña Grants Program, which is led by my partner and wife, Kyung-Jun Miranda, which has allowed us to award close to $165,000 in grants to nonprofits across Puerto Rico. Our hope is that this book will become a commercial success that will allow us to invest even more into this philanthropic work. Right now, NRDC for the last couple of years has invested a lot of resources and work in Puerto Rico, installing solar panels and batteries on community centers to make them storm shelters for the future. This year is the 5th anniversary of Hurricane Maria. Our work really kind of like became incredibly significant when Hurricane Maria hit Puerto Rico. We had published our book just under a year before Hurricane Maria, but that year allowed that event gave us the opportunity to collaborate with DC Comics, and that produced this book, which won me Eisner's Humanitarian Award. And this book was the main fundraiser for our philanthropic work. But we continue, and our newest project, La Borinqueña, guest starring Rosario Dawson, is our hope to kind of like continue in that philanthropic space of creating a hopefully a commercially successful book that will allow us to reinvest in nonprofits in Puerto Rico and hopefully create more storm shelters and at nonprofit community centers throughout the island. But the other thing that's exciting about the book is that the Nitainos are going to be in the book. So Otto is going to have his own short story. Luz is going to have her own short story. We have 2 other members of the Nitainos. Iguaca, she's actually the Amazon. She's the hero inspired by the Amazon parrot of Puerto Rico. And Vejigante, which is our mecha. He's literally our like gigantic robot. And this character is these characters are all going to have an opportunity to be showcased in this book. So it's going to be fun storytelling. It's going to be charitable fundraising. And with the support of an incredible human being like Rosario Dawson, we're hoping that this book will expand our impact, our philanthropic work. And it's also important to point out that even though these action figures are a commercial venture between our studio and Boss Fight Studio, there's also a dedication to actually donate some of the proceeds of these action figures to our continued charitable work, which has never been done, y'all. That's never been done in toy companies. Nobody thinks like that, you know. And so, yo, mad props to Boss Fight Studio for coming in on that level, you know. And that's our hope when we do collaborations with studios and with companies. It's like, it's great that we're going to collaborate, but why don't we take this up another notch? What are we going to do to totally make a difference? If you're going to be a part of a property like ours, then you should already know that we're committed to philanthropy. We're already committed to social issues and to making transformative change. What is our project? What is our collaboration going to do? It's powerful to create and introduce characters that are diverse, that are speaking to an audience that is overwhelmingly underrepresented. But it's even more powerful when the projects actually have a level of investment back into the actual work. So bravo, Boss Fight Studios, because that's actually one of the things I'm super excited about. I mean, I am going to play with these toys, but I'm also excited that we're actually doing that. And that's something that everybody should know, that these action figures are our connection to our philanthropic work, you know, and that's the commitment that Boss Fight Studios made, not only with the incredible attention to detail and the beautiful production value they've invested in these projects, but the fact that it goes beyond the detail and it goes into the heart and the passion that drives our work. So thank you guys so much.
Well, thank you. I mean, it's an honor to work with you and to work on this brand. It's fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we had a bunch of people saying they wanted another look at the figure, so I've popped her back up on screen.
All right, people are like, I don't want to see these old faces. Show me the picture.
So yeah, Eric, I know we're getting a lot of questions too about timing and, you know, when can people order them and all of that. So do we want to just talk a little bit about where these are and when they can expect more news on these?
So yeah, we're putting some finishing details on the deco stage, and once the deco stage is finished, we'll be putting them up for pre-sale mid-March.
Yep, that sounds right.
Mid-March, Women's History Month. Look at that.
Yes.
Perfect.
There we go. Because we're making history. She's the first Afro-Latina superhero to have her own action figure. So we're making history. So why not make history for Women's History Month, you know?
Yep. And in terms of timing on when these will be produced and in hand, I think we're saying early 2023, right, Eric?
I think so, yeah. We can't promise, but it might be sooner than that. But at this point,
if it's a little earlier, then they'll be ready for Dia de los Tres Reyes, which is the Three Kings Day in the Caribbean and in Latin America. Because for those who are Latin or are related to Latins or have Latin friends, you know that the Christmas holiday season lasts way into the end of January. You know, so there's a reason why those Christmas trees don't go down.
Yeah.
You know? So definitely always a good thing, you know?
Yeah. No, so I see all of the fan comments. We're super excited about these as well. You know, I think there's so much. Edgardo, thank you for talking through kind of the future of La Borinqueña as well. And Eric, you've talked through kind of at least alluding to more plans for all of this. So I see everybody's excitement, and I just want to make sure that we're acknowledging and kind of we're excited with you. We're super fans of these, and we can't wait to have these action figures in hand as well.
I also want to give props to the whole team at Boss Fight Studio, particularly in the design of the figure. I love the body image that she has. It's such an incredibly healthy and positive body image, and I think that was so important to convey with this character. Oftentimes, when women are represented in this action figure genre, it's still unfortunately in a very sensationalized, over sexualized way, in an objectified manner. And what I really love about this character is that it's really promoting like an incredibly strong physique, but at the same time a very real physique. I mean, her hips, if we could go back to La Borinqueña, to me are one of the things that really stand out. Seeing La Borinqueña's like full body like that, and it's a strong body.
Yeah.
You know, I think that is something that is very representative of the Latina and also of women of African descent as well, and also all with many women. There's definitely a positive heavy emphasis on body imagery here. So I definitely want to commend you guys for really taking that into consideration in the figures designs as well.
Well, that was one of the things that we talked about early on with the designs, is that we wanted her to have that full body the way she's drawn in the comics and everything like that. And even Luz, she's like thinner, but she's still not like that kind of supermodel-y look that most comic book heroines have. Like, it's also Luz and Marisol are shorter than the other characters in, you know, generally. So like Oro and La Gorgola are taller than them. So and we actually took that into account as well.
Yeah, so it's really cool because like not all the action figures are the same size, so same height. So it actually gives it a much more of a real world kind of look. And but it's I wish we had like an image of the stand. But when you see the character, when you see La Borinqueña on her flight stand, holy cow! And also you didn't get to talk about it, but one of the coolest accessories that Oro comes with is a mini version of himself.
Oh yeah.
When he's go ahead.
Yeah, he comes with that little tiny version of him, because he shrinks down, and then, you know, like Koki, he hops and he shrinks down. So we kind of did this like little mini version of him, but not just standing there. We wanted to make him like in motion hopping with the kind of like comic book style trail behind him. Like,
that's so dope. That is so dope, man. That is like going on the top of my computer monitor.
And we're getting some questions about glow in the dark. I know you talked early on about Luz and her eyes being kind of transparent. Light pipe. Yeah, that's the right term.
The term. for what? Yeah, but La Borinqueña is going the light blue stripes and the star. We're going to attempt to make them glow in the dark, so they'll kind of pop off in either under a black light or in the dark when charged with light. Like, you know, that those stripes and stuff will pop.
So really the star is actually going to be a transparent plastic.
Yes.
So it's going to be molded and placed on top of the torso of the figure. Yep. But the underside of the star, which is touching her chest, is going to be painted with a layer of glow in the dark paint.
Yeah.
So
so there should be
piping will glow on the costume.
Yeah, it should create a really nice effect.
Kind of like
when she powers up.
Like, right, when she powers up, that's kind of like a manifestation of a power that we start seeing in the third book.
So much love. And, you know, we've seen some questions come through around, you know, can they get a closer look at the images? We'll definitely be sharing those images, and, you know, you'll see lots over social. You'll see, you know, more come out as we pre-order these items in March. So you'll continue to see a lot more images of these as we go.
But what I want to encourage everyone who is listening, when these images do make their way onto social media, please repost, please reshare. Boss Fight Studio, like Somos Salte, which is our design studio that publishes La Borinqueña, they're an independent studio. This is not a multi-billion-dollar corporation that already has shelf space in every major store on the planet. So there is an incredibly loyal following of fans that have been supporting Boss Fight Studio through the years because of their commitment to quality action figures. But similar to the work we do with La Borinqueña, this is really going to go on y'all hands. So this is like an opportunity for you guys to be the heroes as well, and bring news of these action figures. Take a screenshot before this goes up. Bring news to your social media circles. Start the buzz. Hashtag La Borinqueña. Let's get people excited about this new line of action figures that are coming out. And we're literally moving into the space that's dominated mostly by major corporate toy companies. You know, that this world of toys being revealed with a pre-order window is something that major toy companies do. In fact, major toy companies even do crowdfunding, which I find incredibly bizarre. You know what I mean? These are multi-billion-dollar toy companies, and they're crowdfunding you. They're taking your money to help them make a toy when they already got luxurious lifestyles for these directors and CEOs. This is not the case with Boss Fight. They have incredible dedication to the quality of their toys, but they're still small. So help us promote this line. Help us get this buzzing for the next few months. You know, you all who are here today, you literally got that first exclusive look into this. And this is going to be a journey that's going to ride us into the rest of this year. We'll be talking about these figures. We'll give you more peeks as we move forward in the production of this. Yeah. But this starts with you all right now. This literally does start with you all right now. Just as you all support us with our philanthropic work, support us with the publication of our books, now it's on you guys. Help us make this line of action figures incredibly successful so that more people can learn about La Borinqueña and also these incredible characters that are a part of her wave. You know, first wave is La Borinqueña and La Gárgora. Second wave is Oro and Luz. You know, we're super excited about this. And obviously the success of this, sincerely, will determine the future waves that will come. So, yeah. I'm Puerto Rican. I'm all about waves, man. Keep the waves coming. You know what I mean? Don't let them stop. So let's keep these waves coming because there are a lot of other characters and variants that we want to introduce, which are exciting for collectors and also for people who just want to like share this with a new generation of fans, you know?
And David says he wants 2 sets for me. We all want 2 sets, David. We can't wait.
Qué bueno. Muy bien.
Awesome. Well, Edgardo, thank you so much for joining us. We are so excited to partner with you. We cannot wait to continue to delve into this world and to show La Borinqueña all of the love as we produce these figures and get them out. So thank you so much for sharing your time with us and for helping people who haven't heard the story before understand the story today.
Of course. Thank you guys for believing in our brand, for believing in our work, and for bringing a level of professionalism and passion into this project that we bring into our books. It truly is exciting to see this happening. Wow. Really just wow. Thank you so much.
Eric, I hope you were looking at all of those comments as we were showing these off. Yeah. Everybody is so excited about these figures you've designed. Awesome. Well, and thank you everyone for joining us. We cannot wait for these figures. We can't wait to share more. You will continue to hear about this line, but we had to debut it as the first brand reveal in our Boss Fest. So thank you for joining us, and we cannot wait to show you more. So keep joining us on Boss Fest. There's lots more announcements coming. Tomorrow we are talking about the Little Prince figures at 11 a.m. and we are talking about the Hero Hacks figures at 3 p.m. So make sure you tune in, and we will share all sorts of more reveals as the week goes on. Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.
Take care, y'all.